Welcome back to the Healthy Youth Ministry Podcast. We're excited to release the first in a series of episodes called Stronger Together, where we invite voices from youth ministries, leaders, experts from across the country to have a conversation about healthy youth ministry. And today, we're going to be joined by Vince Parker of Life.Church. And so I'm excited for you and your teams to get into new content. Now, as always, if you would, it would mean the world to us if you took a few minutes to leave a rating, leave a review, share this content with other leaders and youth pastors in your sphere of influence. That's going to help us increase our impact here and around the world. And lastly, if you've yet to sign up and register for the National Conference in October, hosted here at Oaks Church in South Dallas, go to hymconference.com to get you and your team signed up. Now, it's time to grow. Let's do it. Let's get stronger together.
What's up? Welcome to our Stronger Together edition of the Healthy Youth Ministry Podcast. We say it all the time here at Healthy Youth Ministry. We are stronger together. We see that through Scripture. We see how when iron sharpens iron, there's something that happens. That friction is how we grow. And we believe that to be true. That's why we host one-day events. That's why we host our annual conference, Healthy Youth Ministry Conference, in the fall, because we believe that we're stronger together. And what we're doing in these Stronger Together episodes is we're talking to some friends of ours at Healthy Youth Ministry that make us stronger. And one of those people is Vince Parker, who has sharpened me, who has made me better. And Vince has been a friend of mine over the years. And I want to introduce him to you if you've never met Vince. He's my friend. He's your friend too. But before we get into some conversations and some things that I think that you've inspired me and inspired others to live and lead by, can you just tell our listeners who's Vince Parker? Kind of a little backstory of just not just your ministry landscape, but just, man, who's Vince?
Oh man, Vince Parker. Man, I have the honor and blessing to being married to my amazing wife, Melissa. I have a kiddo, so a 22-year-old, so kiddo, full gotcha. Kid, full adult.
Nice.
Lover of all things, currently running right now.
Okay.
But just a follower of Jesus who loves to hang out with his friends, have a good time, and just spread the word, spread the good news of the gospel. I've been doing ministry for 16 years now at Life.Church, where I get to lead our internship program and our youth ministry, which is such a joy. If you're not familiar with Life.Church, we are one church in multiple locations, and so it's amazing to get to do that. And based out of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma is where I live.
That's awesome. And Vince and I met, man, I don't even know the math. It's been
5 years ago, 6?
Yeah, I would say
2018 or 2019?
Yeah, I would say 2018, November or so of 2018, and then we started hanging. So yeah, I don't know. We're not. Are you great at math?
Okay.
Okay. It's been a few years. We've been rolling together. We actually met, which is kind of a fun introduction. We met at the Museum of the Bible, which, man, you need to check out.
If you've never been, go to it.
Yes,
ASAP.
We're not sponsored, but we are supporting the Museum of the Bible. We're also not sponsored by Celsius, but it keeps guys in youth ministry going. All right,
it's the drink of champions.
That's right. And so we met there and realized. Just around a table, just talking about, hey, tell me about your story. And we started talking. And I found out that day that you used to be in the Army and you were a paratrooper.
Yes, I used to serve our country and jump out of planes.
That's right.
So let's go.
How many times have you jumped out of a plane?
I've got 151.
151 times. You know what? I realized that's about 151 more times than I've jumped out of a plane.
You've never done that?
No.
Come on, you got to go for it.
So thank you, first off, for serving our country. But I think there's maybe not just your military background, but now you're 16 years at Life.Church, and you've served in multiple roles. And so talk to me about even that journey, because I think it's good for people to hear, because I think sometimes when they meet people or hear of someone, they see them where they're at now, but they don't realize the journey that they've been on to get there. And sometimes we compare ourselves to be like, well, if I was in their seat or if I had their position, not realizing the years of faithfulness that put you in the position that you're in now. So give me the kind of that your Life.Church landscape and kind of like, man, what was that journey like to get in the position that you're at now?
I wish my wife was here to start this story. I believe it's like 20 years ago. We started attending Life.Church. We weren't even married at the time, but her boss at the time was always inviting people to church, and he said, hey, I'll tell you what, I'll buy you dinner if you'll just come to church. And so I was like, free meal makes sense. We went, and it was like, God was like, welcome back home. And so, you know what I'm talking about out there. And there's one of those things where you just like, every week we just kept going. The messages were speaking to us, and we just kept growing in our faith and just kept surrendering more of who we are to what God wanted to do in our lives. We ended up getting married. But people kept telling me, they're like, hey, like one day you're going to be on staff. And I'd really never had been like, yo, I think I'm going to be on staff at the church. Never was like a goal of mine. It was just, and one day I found myself, I used to work in retail and used to be a manager like at CVS and Target. And I found myself literally going, okay, God, what's next? And I found myself in the season of like stepping out of that, starting my own business, being able to serve more because of that free time, be at the church more, do all those different things that just what God's calling, be in my word more, like seek Him more, which is the beauty of actually more than anything that I could do during that time. And then there was an opening, got a phone call one day, an interview, did not think I was going to get the job, but got the job. Awesome. I said, God, if you want to get it, then if they offer it, I'll say yes. You know, I'll step through the door. Started off as an associate youth pastor at one of our locations. I think there might have been 11 locations at that time, maybe 9. I'm not sure. Again, math, not my strong suit, or memory probably. It's not my strong suit, not math. And did that for about almost 3 years, and then associate youth pastor. It's like the office. It's like the associate to the associate. You know. Yeah, essentially I was. Because they had 2 associates at the time. I was the second one. So then I had a chance to launch a new location in Midwest City, Oklahoma, and was the lead youth pastor there, which is cool because that's where I graduated high school from and had grown up. So it's kind of like a going back home moment. And so got a chance to work with some amazing volunteers, some great students, and God did amazing things to that ministry. And one day I felt like God was like, hey, I want you to be a campus pastor at your location, which had never necessarily been a desire of mine to be a campus pastor, but I always wanted to be obedient to what God was saying. So I talked to leadership about it, interviewed, got that role by the grace of God and what He was doing. And so I was a campus pastor at our Broadway and Britton location number 19. And launched that. You were like the first. Launched that campus pastor there. Because it's different than even being a campus pastor, but to be a launching campus pastor, there's a lot that goes into that as well. Right. I'm not going to say it's like planting church, slightly different, multi-site model, but still a grind to it. Yeah. And so now that's year 6. 3 years later, I essentially get a phone call from my amazing leader, Allie, who's my leader now, and says, hey, we have an opening to be the leader, what we call central ministry leader of Switch of the youth ministry. Yeah. And a friend of mine, Jeremy McCarter, shout out to you, Jeremy, down there at SEU. Yes. Who used to do it. I interviewed that and got that. That's awesome. And so now, associate youth pastor, campus pastor. Now I get to lead youth ministry for our entire church and help provide the vision and direction and get to work with 45 of the most amazing youth pastors out there. So super thankful to all of y'all. And then about a year and a half ago, the leader of our internship team, shout out to you, felt called by God to step in a different direction. And then a friend of mine asked me, why don't I lead? And I was like, but I feel like I'm supposed to still be in youth ministry. Yeah. And on the drive home, God was like, well, why not both? Yeah. And I was like, so I reached out to my leadership. And next thing you know, they were like, hey. And so now technically my title is Senior Central Ministry Leader of Youth and Internships. And so along with some amazing people, I get to lead. That's awesome. Lock arms and lead both the internship and the youth ministry. I think it's always good to hear kind of the backstory of what I even love of just like your kind of getting back into church and from not just your full surrender and obedience to God, and then it like starts opening up doors
but even the faithfulness of probably those 3 years of being the associate to the associate. And then now here you are, and I've had the opportunity and privilege to meet a lot of your team and a lot of the amazing youth pastors that you get to work with there at Life.Church. And man, it's so cool to see how God's used you. But I just think it's always good for people that are listening to a podcast, driving down the road, and sometimes when they think about brands like Life.Church and they think about 45 campuses and how that leader get there. And I would say it was a lot of obedience and a lot of faithfulness and trust in the Lord to get you to that point.
Yeah, I think that's key. Is sometimes we have to be content in where God has us. Learn to be still so that we can hear God's voice when He speaks, because it's often in a whisper.
Yeah.
So that we can step through the doors of where God has us in life and where He would direct us. And when you look back, and I look back at my life, I'm like, oh my goodness, Lord, I see how you orchestrated this in a way that I could have never, if I tried to, could have never done that.
It's so awesome to see how God's used your life and to think about kind of our Stronger Together edition of this podcast. You and I met, and then we started just connecting and encouraging one another. And I was down here in Texas and then moved to Oklahoma. And Vince said, he's like, hey, if you need help moving in, let me know. And people sometimes throw that out there as like, man, if you need help, I got it. But actually, Vince, you showed up.
I beat you there.
I know.
I beat you to your new house.
That's right. It was waiting and unloaded a couple of U-Hauls and all my books.
Bro, you have a lot of books.
I do. Man.
I don't know why you're trying to start a library. But you got a lot of books. You've read a lot over the years.
I've heard it said that leaders are readers. So
they are.
Or now, leaders are listeners as well. They listen to the podcast.
Hey, listen.
But man, you've just been such a friend to me to think about iron sharpening iron, and then what's cool with just the evolution of healthy youth ministry and our one-day model and our national conference. I just want you to know, for me, I'm just crazy thankful for how you've spoken in our community. And Vince really is always like, what do you need? I got you. Yeah. And I appreciate that about you. And that's really who you are. What I love too is you'll show up when you guys are launching new campuses. Here you are, Central, all this, but you're, to me, one of the greatest examples of a servant leader. You're in the back of a truck helping unload, be a part of that. Where'd that come from? Just that, because to me, and we're going to get a little bit into some of the things that I think make Vince Parker who he is, but like, where'd that kind of like servant mentality, that heart to really serve? Life.Church, you've been such a lifter of arms to what God's been doing in us at Healthy Youth Ministry, but where'd that come from?
Man, I think part of it's how I'm wired, and another part of it's just who as followers of Christ, as followers of the way, we're called to serve one another.
Yeah.
And that literally means like you're gonna have to give up something that like you want to do to spend your time, energy, and effort loving and helping out others. And there's a variety of ways to do that. And I'm probably most stingy with my time. I probably just rather do whatever I want to do. But I just believe that if I put myself out there and say, hey, here's an opportunity. Hey, I'll be glad to help you move.
Yeah.
I want you to know I'm serious, and I'll do that by showing up. Or, hey, I'll help when a new campus launches. I'll be glad to help show up, or whatever it may be. Whatever you need, I'm there for you. And I think, one, you have to make yourself available, which is difficult to put yourself out there, because if people ask, then you have to be like, yes, I'll do that. And so I just think it's part of, like, again, there's a little bit how I'm wired. My mom is like that. My dad is like that. Both my parents kind of have that, like, willingness to help people.
Yeah.
But that idea of, like, wait, Christ has transformed me. Why would I not want to help people out?
Yeah.
Like, and be intentional about it.
That's awesome. And I think, too, for everyone listening, what's cool is even when I was in Oklahoma City and helping lead their multi-site, diverse church, People's Church. Shout out to People's Church. As I was serving there, which was kind of cool. We get to be in the same cities, go grab breakfast together and do life together. Really, and even you speaking into our leaders, like me getting the opportunity to speak into your leaders, like it's kind of the beauty of the church. Like, how can we help each other become stronger together? Yeah. And it's so funny because a lot of people is like, there's people like you've heard it said that the miracle's in the house, like talking about sometimes like that leader that. But I also think for some of you out there, your greatest resource might be the church next door. And it's that friendship that can happen and just encourage one another.
You got to make that connection. Like, you just can't. You can't take it for granted or hope it will happen. The level of intentionality you have to bring to that is not just a one phone call, but that continuous, like, reaching out, checking up.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't happen overnight.
And that's something, and you do a really good job at that from time to time, just shooting a text, hey, how can I pray for you? But also, I would hope that I'm encouraging the same way, and we know what's going on in each other's life. So it's like encouraging, hey, I see this mountain that you're about to climb, when it comes to maybe a goal or initiative. And that's to me what it means really to be stronger together. But for the next few moments, I thought it would be cool in these different stronger together kind of episodes. We're going to talk to some amazing leaders, ministry practitioners, counselors, people in the marketplace. But I think they all carry different strengths, or they lead from a different place. But something I've always admired about you, Vince, is you are disciplined. You're like my friend Curtis says, you keep it 100. Like everything you do, you go all in. And you've been, I'm talking like the sneakerhead. Like you lived in that world. Man, I always talk to people. If you've ever heard Vince talk or people talk about Vince, he has the greatest lawn ever. I'm talking, it looks like a golf course. I've had the opportunity to hang out at your house, not just to see the lawn, but you're a great smoker of the meats. You
got to purvey the smoked meats.
It is incredible. I've had your burn-ins, which are incredible. I've had your wings, which I think people sleep on your wings because I think your wings are incredible. And then, man, your ribeye, your brisket, all that, just amazing. But now you've kind of taken on, like I've seen this as I've been your friend for years. You just go all into whatever's ahead of you. And not that you master it, but you're committed to, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it all the way. And now you're on this journey of running. And tell me about that, and maybe even some, like, where this kind of discipline, or even the way I would even say it, to see something through. And for some of you that are listening, it's, you might feel like, oh man, like, in your ministry context or in your personal life, because think about healthy youth ministry. This podcast is to help youth pastors, to help next gen leaders. But we always say it's if the leader's healthy, the ministry's healthy, and how we're stronger together. I think that you have some insight. I just have always admired that about you, and it's really a heart for excellence. It's there's so many things. So tell me kind of where that comes from, but also the journey you're on now, because you're kind of taking on a new task. That I remember a few years ago, you're having back problems. Like you were like, there's some that were, to think now that you're like, hey, I'm going to take on something that's going to be painful, but you're in it full in again. So talk to us about kind of those things, because anybody that talks about Vince Parker, they always say, like, they always mention this lineup of things that you're committed to and that you do so well. So tell me where that came from, and then just kind of what the journey's like now when it comes to discipline. Really, that's the key word, is it takes discipline to do those things. So talk to me a little bit about that, Vince.
Yeah. I would say this. I believe you either going to do something or you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Right? Like the Bible says, do all things to the glory of God.
Yeah.
And I think the key is that, but you don't have to do all things. And I think too often, like, people will go in on things and try to be masters of 1,000 different things.
Yeah.
But you can't be a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
You got to be really good at something, then you really have to go all in on it.
It's good.
And I actually don't think I'm any more disciplined than anyone else. I just choose to place my energy where most people don't, and they see me do things that they think are difficult, that necessarily, they're hard, but they're not impossible.
It's good.
And sometimes seasons of life dictate that. I am an empty nester. Like I said, my daughter is 22. I decided to start running 6 months ago. I'm training to run a marathon. I just ran a half marathon. I spend more hours running than I ever have in my entire life, because for like 25 years, when I was in the Army, I wasn't running.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, you have 4 kids.
Yep.
It's probably not the season for you to spend 5, 6, 7 hours a week outside running.
Yeah, I don't know many seasons that I've been running, but
Right.
but yes,
Like
I agree. That would getting home, but it you can do it. People have done it, but
Right.
I get what you're saying. This season of life, it seems a little more doable to do marathon training than it would be right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And for some people, there are things that they like. So there are people out right now who are very good at playing video games.
Yeah.
They are. And
Shout out John Rush.
Shout out, yeah, John Rush is killing it out there. And you can even make money playing video games, and it might even come natural for you, and you might get great enjoyment from that.
Yeah.
But you might be saying to yourself, I play a lot of video games, but I don't work on my health. Well, if you actually need to work on your health, then you're going to have to move some of that energy from some place.
Yeah.
And that's where the discipline part comes in at. It's not that you're undisciplined. The question is, can you move the energy to the right place to put the energy to be disciplined in the right place for that right season and that right time?
Yeah.
And so for me, maybe it's your budget, right?
Yeah.
So some of you may be very good shoppers. You're the best shoppers out there. You can find the best deal. You know when things go on sale on Amazon. You know when the annual Nordstrom sale is at. You know when the 2-for-1s is. You know when to go to Target and get the flip-flops. You just know everything.
Yeah.
But you're not very good at saving money. Now, if you make a lot of money, then you'd be okay. But some of you need to get disciplined on Dave Ramsey, get out of debt.
Yeah.
Some of you, it's the same way in your health. You have mastered the art of baking, cooking outside, filleting, sous vide, the whole nine, but you don't spend a lot of time on mastering the art of taking care of your personal health. Well, you're going to have to take that energy and move it from, hey, all this time cooking and baking, and you probably do it because you love to do it for people and have people over and entertain and do all those things, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what is most important, right? Because, for instance, I could love running right now, and I think I've kind of grown to love it, but I could take it too far, where I could spend too much money on running shoes, which my wife might say I've already done that. I could spend too much money on signing up for races.
Yeah.
I could spend way too many hours a week running. I could find myself in an unhealthy place. So even you can do things that seem healthy and seem like a good discipline, but take them too far because you might ignore. So I like to say it's a matter of setting the correct boundaries and putting your energy towards the right things. And so sometimes those things feel easier. My wife says I like to chase down hard things.
Yeah.
And that would be true. I do like to do hard things. But at the end of the day, I think most people are very good at things. They just choose to put their energy towards things they like more, and sometimes those things lead to things they need to accomplish in life.
It's good.
And sometimes those things do not lead to the things they need to accomplish in life.
Yeah.
So you've got to ask yourself a question. Man, what are the top 5 things that matter most to me for where I'm at in season life? If you're married, then you need to focus on being married. That should always be a top priority. And so, for instance, when I decided to run, I'd read these articles that say it's going to take a lot of time to run a marathon and practice.
Like that training to lead up to it.
Training and all the things and all these long runs on Saturdays or Sundays. Well, I told my wife about it, and I said, hey, are you going to be okay knowing that, like, I probably won't be around as much because I'm going to go running? What she was, and she understood that, so the idea for me training for that made sense. So she's not like going, where's my husband? Why is he always out doing whatever? If you're a parent, you know, if you're raising a brand new kid, I don't know if it's the best time to start going, hey, I'm going to go start running a marathon, or I'm going to spend 20 hours a week learning salsa lessons. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But maybe you're up every night watching Netflix for 4 hours. So maybe you go to bed, wake up early, and then go run. Because I believe the time exists for you to do the right things. Or maybe you just need to take care of your health, and you don't need to run 20-mile long runs on the weekends, but maybe you need to go out and run like a few 5Ks a week. Like go out and run 3 miles, or spend 3 hours a week at the gym, or taking a yoga class, or whatever it may be, but putting the right energy in the right place. But you can't do that if you don't begin to prioritize the things that matter.
That's good.
And the things that you need to put in order of importance. And then, like I say, man, if you're going to do it, like, do it well. Like, when other people see you do it, you don't necessarily have to be the best.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to never be Kipchoge. I'm probably never going to run a marathon in 2 hours. It'd be cool if I could, but I probably will never do that. But when people see me, when I post on the social medias, people know, like, hey, Vince is out there giving it his best. Like, Vince is out there being important, so that when people see, they're like, oh, you know what? Okay, he's doing all things to the glory of God.
Yeah,
and then when people ask me about it, I give God all the glory for all the things that I'm doing.
That's awesome. I would say, too, like, to be disciplined, it comes down, I love your next Netflix illustration, because to be disciplined actually comes down to your decisions. Yeah. And what's Pastor Craig Groeschel talks about, like, I think you're moving into the direction of, like, your, like, those decisions, your thoughts, you know. And so, hey, as you think, like, man, I want to commit to that, because your thought life ends up producing, you know, your habits, you know, and all those things. It's this kind of snowball that happens. And I even love you saying, hey, I had this conversation with my wife, and this is what we're going to do, and so on and so forth. That it really is. And whatever, you know, those disciplines, you know, come down to your decisions, which will lead to a better direction. Because that verse says, in whatever you do, do it unto the Lord. Yeah. And I think a lot of us, and I've been guilty of this in my life, in ministry I do it unto the Lord, but maybe not in my habits with my health. And in ministry, I do it in the Lord, in, like, for this sermon prep or this meeting, but maybe not, you know, with my family. And so I think that verse, it's Paul's writing. He's like, hey, and whatever you do it unto the Lord, you know, and with all your strength, everything. And so, man, thank you for that. I think it's going to help some people. I know for me, it's always fun to, like, that inspiration, you know, of going, hey, like, again, for me, I'm just being honest to everyone watching or listening, I'm not like, I want to run. that is not what I think about when I'm watching these videos and your training. But I would say I'm inspired to go, in whatever I do, I need to do in the Lord. Because I remember you even talking to me when I decided to go back and go to school, and you'd be like, Joseph, that's crazy, man. Like, the hours you're doing. But that's in life. You're not like, well, I need to go back to school. It's like, no, man, like, let the decisions we make, it is in whatever we do, we give glory to God. Yeah. So when I see you running, I'm like, man, Vince, in whatever he's doing, he's going to honor God. Even when you're doing, you know, really heavy into the sneaker scene, you know, you went and started, like, hey, sneakerhead Bible nerd. You would be at sneaker, you know, shows selling shoes, but you were, like, talking to people about the gospel. Even your shirt saying, like, you literally were selling, like, sneakerhead Bible nerd, and getting to have gospel conversations. And that's what I've loved. And even you talking about, you know, love your neighbor and reach your neighbor. I think when people drive by your house, they see that your house is taken care of, that man, your yard's mowed. Like, it's something small like that, but that's a great
that church invite sign pop.
Oh, exactly. You know, and to go, hey, man, this guy is, there's a love for God that pours out in everything in our life. And so thank you for inspiring me. We're cheering you on. And even what's cool, your wife, as you guys had that conversation, you know, because I was watching kind of your journey through this last half marathon through the lens of your wife's social media, and dude, she's celebrating you and she's cheering you on, and so even though she might be not running with you on a Saturday, she's still in it with you. And I think in whatever endeavor you take on, I think that's where it starts, is this agreement and alignment with your leadership team, with your spouse, your kids, and hey, we're going on this journey. I think about HYM, that we stepped out and we're doing these one days, and I'm traveling across different states, but that's an agreement. It's our families in this together. Hey, and whatever we do, you know, we're stacking hands and saying, you know, team on three, team on me, 1, 2, 3, team. Like, that's we're in this together. You know,
I would say, unless you are single and only work for yourself, you need to get the buy-in for others, because the enemy will use that to distract you from accomplishing that goal. So if you think you're going to do it by yourself, you're not. You need the support, the encouragement, and you definitely don't need the distraction of where you been for 3 hours.
Yeah.
I'm running. Is this every Saturday? Yeah. Because you weren't in advance intentional about, hey, this is where I want to go. I'd love for you to be a part of it. And that doesn't mean like go run with me 3 hours or go start this business with me, but be supportive and know what's coming up for the next 6 months or the next year.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, just know we're cheering you on as
you
run the race. The Chicago Marathon is your next adventure. You're building up.
This coming up October. Let's go. October 13th.
You're building up to that, and so excited. Dude, I just not realized.
Yes, I will run the Chicago Marathon
and then
Sunday.
And then be at Healthy Youth Ministry Conference.
And then be at Healthy Youth Ministry, so you might get a wheelchair for me. So
that is so awesome. And I love you. I appreciate you. And man, I just want everyone to know, to remember, we're stronger together. Refuse to do life alone.
Thank you for listening to the Healthy Youth Ministry podcast. And thank you for investing in your leadership, because the next generation needs you. And we believe healthy youth pastors and leaders are the number one catalyst for seeing healthy youth ministries. Again, make sure to check out hymconference.com for more information about our national conference on October 14th and 15th. And our final prayer and encouragement to you is this: Galatians 6:9. So let us not grow tired in doing what is good, for at the right time we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. And with that, we will see you next month for another episode of the Healthy Youth Ministry podcast.